Hey, let us tell you some stories here. This will soothe you a great deal because you've heard us say that every subject is really two subjects. It's like when you activate a subject of physical wellness, you pick up the stick called physical wellness, and on one end of it is illness or lack of wellness, and on the other end of it is wellness. And when you activate the subject, it vibrates wherever you are on the subject. Do you know what the focus wheel is? The focus wheel is the best process that we know of releasing resistance, and in releasing resistance, allowing you to get into this vortex. And since the vortex is this spinning point of attraction where all cooperative components are being assembled, you want to be one of those cooperative components. So something happens and you can feel your negative emotion, which lets you know that you are being somewhat uncooperative. That's what negative emotion means. So the focus wheel is the process where you define where you are, which you were saying you were way over there in some cases, in the place of despair. And then you identify by making a circle right in the center of your page. You write what you really are reaching for. And recently, we're acknowledging it's really the difference between knowing where I am in my physical approach to life and where my inner being is on the same subject. In other words, what does Source say about this? And then the goal of the focus wheel is to just write in little circles, one here, a statement, a statement, a statement, a statement around the wheel, getting a sort of synergy going until you have trained yourself by virtue of this 5 or 10 minute process into alignment with who you really are. So we'll do several focus wheels as we're moving forward here today. And what you'll notice, unless there is something specific that you can identify. In other words, if you can say, this happens to me on a regular basis, and when it happens, I think this thought. Is there something like that? What you're seeing has really got you out of whack. Because what the source within you knows is, let's remind you what the source within you knows. What the source within you knows is that the laws of the universe are such that we will come forth and explore the contrast, and we will ask for more. And government will scramble around and try to figure out how to do it, and sometimes they'll succeed and sometimes they won't. But the big picture is over here, not over here where government is. So I've been asking too much from government. I've been looking for government to solve all the problems. Government has never been meant to solve all of the problems. We didn't come forth from non-physical saying, let's go forth and be born in a country where they can solve all the problems. We said, let's go forth into an environment where we can live well, where contrast will cause us to keep asking for more. So the ideas are still being born. Can you feel that? Mm-hmm. And so government was not meant to be my creator. I am the creator of my own reality. Government can't control the vibration of my being. I am the creator of the vibration of my being. Government has contributed mightily to this step one process for me. I couldn't even dream the dream of government in the way that I'm dreaming the dream of government if it hadn't been for contrast. Even the founders of this nation, the writers of the Constitution, the declarers of independence that began way back in the beginning of all of it, they came from strong contrast, and it was a dream that they set forth, and we're still on our way to receiving that dream. It's still something that's out there that we're all reaching for, and you're right, we are all doing the best that we know how to do along the way. I'm going to give them a break. I'm going to stop asking them to do the impossible of sorting out all of the pieces of all of the people and figuring it all out, and I'm going to accept the sovereignty of my own being, of coming into alignment with who I am. And I love living in a world where I can say what I say and be who I be. Isn't it lovely that I have the freedom here in this environment, that I can say these things, that we can even have an open forum about this, that we can have debates and discussions and contribute to the whole. And isn't it lovely that Source is holding close all things that we're all asking for, so that the idea of where we are all going is so big. And I'm realizing that the discord that I've been feeling is not because my government is failing me. The discord that I'm feeling is because in all of this, we have collectively created such a supreme, magnificent government, and we have not allowed ourselves to live it. And so it's the dream of that's calling me, and my inability to get to my own dream that's upsetting me. I'm not upset because government is failing. I'm upset because I've dreamed a dream that I'm not letting myself resonate with. So I'm failing my own dream. It's my misalignment with me that's out of whack. And now I understand that, because regardless of what government's doing, regardless of who's in the White House, it doesn't make any difference. I can control this vibrational gap. I can come into alignment with my dream. And when I and others like me come into vibrational alignment with that dream, more of us will live the freedom of it. And eventually it must become a manifestation. But I do not need to wait for something to become a manifestation before I can feel vibrational resonance with it. And thank goodness the founders of our nation understood that. They were setting it out there as something to reach for. They didn't achieve it in that 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 10 years that they were all actively involved. They were nowhere near. We're much closer to that dream today than we were back then. We're not slipping back in government. There's no retrograde. There's no regression. There's no going back. The vibrational vortex goes forward always, always, always. And any discord I feel is only about me not keeping up with the vortex. That's all it is. So Jerry was he was a master of ceremony for a very large event. And it was in a stadium where thousands of people were gathering. And he knew that the Prime Minister would be there, and he thought, wouldn't it be nice if I had a picture of me with the Prime Minister? It would go very well in my portfolio. So he began telling people, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. And his friends, all of his normal friends, said, that's not possible. You're not going to have your picture taken with the Prime Minister. That's like the President of the United States. There will be security around. You're not going to get near the Prime Minister. And Jerry said, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. So he said it often enough, because even though he was not using those words, the feeling of having his picture taken with the Prime Minister felt wonderful, and the feeling of not having it felt awful. In other words, failure, success. So I continued to say, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. He said it to everyone who came near him. The waitress would say, what would you like? And he would say, I would like 2 eggs, over easy, soft, and I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. It didn't matter who it was. He looked for opportunities to express it until he activated within himself a vibration of what he wanted that was literally undeniable. So then, in an out-of-the-vortex moment, he called a photographer and said, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister, and I want you to take the picture. And the man said, you're not going to have your picture taken with the Prime Minister. And Jerry said, yes, I am. I'm going to be the master of ceremony, and the dignitaries will all be on the stage, and I will walk across the stage, and I will trip. He has a very good tripping act he can do. I will trip, and I will fall into the lap of the Prime Minister, and he will reach up to catch me, and when he does, I'll grab his hand, and you get the shot. And the man said, if you'll pay me in advance. Because he really didn't think that Jerry would survive this experience, being the normal person that he was. But Jerry was undaunted. He was going to have his picture taken with the Prime Minister. And so he showed up at the event, and no one was there, just the Secret Service people checking out the stadium and all. And Jerry was there in this sea of seats. And there was one little lady sitting on the front row. And Jerry went right over and sat right next to her. There was only 2 people sitting in this huge stadium. And she said, hello. And Jerry said, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. And she said, you are? And Jerry said, yes, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. And she said, this is something that you really want, isn't it? And Jerry said, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. He's not normal. And she said, well, my son is one of the ministers of Parliament. I can arrange that for you if you would like. And so when they all got there, she set it up, and they have very wonderful pictures of Jerry with the Prime Minister. Because Jerry was going to have his picture taken with the Prime Minister. And all day, every day, there are desires that you hold and people all around you who don't believe that that is likely. And when you listen to the normal people who don't believe that that is likely, one of 2 things happens. Either they train you to not believe it's likely, or you feel resentful of them trying to hold you back. And in either case, you're out of the vortex, and in either case, you don't get what you want, you see. Esther says to Jerry on a pretty regular basis, and proudly, I shine in a crisis. And we say, yes, because the crisis makes you focus.
Right.
So whatever it takes to cause you to focus, in other words, you can set your own boundaries if you want to. We're not big encouragers of that, because usually when you place time restrictions on things, while it might make you focus more, it usually makes you focus negatively more.
That was my point.
Because it makes you feel shortage of time. And that shortage of time or shortage of resources pulses pretty loud within you.
Yeah.
And it's easy for you to continue those vibrations even though you don't want to,
Yeah.
and even though they don't serve you.
Yeah.
So we are not advocates at all about putting those restrictions. And yet, when you think about it, one of the things that makes this time-space reality so valuable to you is that it causes you to focus. In other words, your life causes you to focus. Your life causes you to focus, which causes you to ask. And that's a good thing. Well, in the vortex, you are timeless.
Yes.
In this sense. We know that's sort of hard to get your thoughts around. When you live in a dimension where we are rendezvousing at certain times, we are together for a certain amount of time, it does afford a large number of people to focus simultaneously and be productive in that way. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing to realize is that in all this conversation that we've been offering here today, with our primary objective being to help you understand the existence of the vortex and awaken within you a desire to be in there, mm-hmm. is that when you are in alignment with all of the resources that create worlds, and when you are in alignment with all of the things that you've been asking for, when you are in alignment with all of those things, now the power of the universe is at your disposal. The leverage is just extreme. In other words, one who's in alignment with source or connected to that source energy or offering no resistance, or we're saying these in as many different ways as we can, or in the vortex. Someone in the vortex is more powerful than millions who are not. Mm-hmm. So your power, your leverage is in the vortex. And that's why it's so interesting. So many people remain ornery, remain overwhelmed, and justifiably so, in the sense they're not making it up. But as they bang around outside the vortex, working hard, haven't you ever been in a hurry and that's when you spill coffee on you and then you go back to change your clothes and then the button falls off and then you put a different blouse on and you snag it as you go out the door and you put on your shoe and you realize you've got something on it, so you go back for other shoes, and when you bend over for them it messes your hair up, and then you go in to fix your hair and you get toothpaste on your sleeve, and then you're wiping toothpaste off your sleeve and you realize there was something else on the towel that's now on you, so then you go in to change your jacket now and the jacket doesn't match that blouse, so then you put a different blouse on and then you put a different jacket on, and then you go back and now your hair is really a mess, and now you're 15 minutes later than you were before, and on and on and on and on it goes. In other words, and you just want to stop and count to 10 and get in the vortex and regroup. In other words, when something begins to go a little bit wrong, stop and breathe and meditate and appreciate and do anything you can do to get in the vortex. And if you do that consistently, you'll have time. Ideas come to you. Clarity comes to you. In other words, if Esther gets in the vortex, then the book begins to come. But if she's out there saying, I got to do it, and I've got to set the time aside, and oh, the phone won't stop ringing, and I've got to put myself in seclusion, and you're breathing too loud. She'll even say to Jerry, your thoughts are keeping me awake. Your thinking. In other words, when you're outside the vortex, nothing can go well, you see. And when you're inside the vortex, everything does. You have power and energy and alignment. We've enjoyed this interaction. It has been a wonderful day. We have taken thought beyond that which it has been before, and we've accomplished our greatest intent in that we have alerted you to the existence of your vibrational reality. Now, you've known about it before, but you've never known about it this clearly before. And you've never known that this vortex, this creative vortex, this vibrational reality was spinning and gathering, collecting all cooperative components. And never before have you been so keenly alert to where you are in relationship to this cooperative gathering. As you're moving forward, it will be very helpful if you will say to yourself, am I cooperating with my hopes and dreams? Am I cooperating with the fuller part of me? And every time you catch yourself complaining, just laugh and say, nope, I'm not cooperating. Every time you feel negative emotion, just laugh and say, nope, I'm not cooperating. I want to be a cooperative component. I want to be a cooperative component. I want to be a vibrational match to all that I've been asking for. I want to be a cooperative component. I want to be a vibrational match to the source within me, to the culmination of all that I have become. I want to fulfill my reason for being here. I want to have step 1 moments. I want to acknowledge that Source is having step 2 moments. I want to be aware of the difference between a step 1 and a step 3 vibration. I want to acknowledge that it's all right for me to have step 1 moments. I want to know that it's okay to be out of the vortex. I want to make peace with where I am. I want to look for the positive aspects wherever I am. I want to make lists of things that feel better than other things. I want to make lists of things that feel good until I've increasingly improved lists. I want to activate within myself thoughts about things that feel good. I want the dominant thoughts that I think to be inside the vortex kind of thoughts. I want the majority of the beliefs that I hold to match the beliefs that Source holds. I want to relieve myself of the flawed premises that I picked up along the physical trail. I want